First, we will take Eastern Europe. Next, the masses of Asia. Then we shall encircle the last bastion of capitalism, the United States of America. We shall not have to attack. It will fall like an overripe fruit into our hands. Paraphrased and summarized, that in essence is the plan for world conquest outlined by Vladimir Lenin, father of Russian communism. No matter who the Kremlin boss has been since Lenin's death in 1924, the communists have never deviated from this master plan, nor on the strategy necessary to carry it out. It is still their blueprint for conquest today. Complete world domination is the ultimate goal. The major target, the great prize, the United States of America. General Carlos Romulo, ambassador from the Philippines, past president of the United Nations General Assembly, sounded this urgent warning in a Reader's Digest feature article. America, wake up. The editors of the Reader's Digest commented,
"A wise and loyal friend of the United States warns us, the Cold War is a real war. It's far later than we know. The communists can win without changing their tactics. We cannot win without changing ours. We must assume the offensive. We dare not stand still."
To better understand this threat to our freedom, we will piece together many bits of recent history. This ideological warfare actually began November 7, 1917, when barely 8 months after the uprising that dethroned Tsar Nicholas II, Lenin and his Bolsheviks overthrew the first democratic government in Russian history. Terrorists' methods crushed all but sporadic resistance, and by 1922, the Reds controlled most of Russia. In that year, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was formed by Lenin and his henchmen. Since then, bit by bit, the communists have steadily pushed toward their goal of world domination. They've used bribery, lies, bluff, brutality, the most extensive and most successful espionage network in world history, mass murder on a scale never before dreamed of, and every possible means to advance them along the road to world conquest, always guided by Lenin's blueprint. World War II proved to be an aid to Soviet ambitions for a world communist empire. Stalin made his notorious deal with Hitler in August of 1939, and the following month the German panzer divisions rolled into Poland. In just 4 weeks, Russia and Germany were cutting up Poland, dividing the spoils. The Reds moved next against tiny Finland. The Finns fought courageously, but Moscow got a toehold in the little Baltic nation. And soon thereafter, the Reds infiltrated Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, taking over the three little nations from within. The Baltic people resisted, not in an organized way, but individually. Hundreds of thousands of freedom-loving people were seized, thrown into cattle cars, and sped off to Siberian slave labor camps. The Soviet timetable for conquest was interrupted when Germany turned on the Kremlin and invaded Russia. As Germany drove deep into Russia, the vast numbers of Russian fighting men with American Lend-Lease aid proved a formidable obstacle. This, combined with our own bombing raids and ground strength, broke the German armies. But the onrushing Allied forces were halted from going through Eastern Germany, Czechoslovakia, and the Balkans by a fateful decision of our government leaders. And the stage was set for Stalin's execution of the first phase of Lenin's master plan, the takeover of Eastern Europe. While maintaining the fiction of a coalition government, the communists gradually reorganized each state along Soviet lines and liquidated or discredited all organized opposition. Their task was made easier by the years of Nazi repression, which had weakened democratic groups. Non-communist parties lacked funds and the generous support that was forthcoming from Moscow for local communists. However, the supreme advantage enjoyed by the communists was the close proximity of the Red Army and the inaction of the Western nations. Arthur Bliss Lane resigned his post as ambassador to Poland and put on record in his book, I Saw Poland Betrayed, what he had witnessed of communist ruthlessness and the unaccountable apathy of American and British statesmen. Ambassador Lane wrote,
Our policy of appeasement towards Soviet Russia undoubtedly emboldened Stalin to go ahead with his plans for the complete domination of Poland, as of all other countries of Eastern Europe.
In 1947, Poland was forced into the growing family of satellites. A year later, while the West remained apparently oblivious, Czechoslovakia was added. Once the freest nation in Central Europe, Czechoslovakia was an ally of the West, and the Red Army had withdrawn in the fall of 1945. However, President Beneš was pressured into forming a provisional government of the National Front, in which the key posts of ministries of Interior, Defense, Information, and Agriculture were held by communists or fellow travelers. On February 25, 1948, with the army, police, and all means of communication in communist hands, Beneš yielded to communist strongman Gottwald's ultimatum, and Czechoslovakia became a satellite of the Soviet Union. On March 10th, 2 weeks after the communists seized power, Foreign Minister Jan Masaryk was found dead below the window of his office. An Associated Press Foreign Affairs editor wrote this memorable dispatch.
Jan Masaryk, although deeply devoted to democracy, thought he could do business with communism. His suicide is a monument to his recognition and a warning to the world that no such course is possible.
In September, at the age of 64, Edvard Beneš, president of the Republic of Czechoslovakia, was dead. Even the communists could not deny him a state funeral, and a tearful nation lined the streets of Prague to mourn the death of a man and a republic. So fell one by one the Eastern European nations, victims of Soviet infiltration, subversion, or force. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, until almost all of Eastern Europe had disappeared behind a curtain of iron. In Greece and Austria, where we acted to give real assistance to those who resisted, the Red advance was stalled, but they continued the drive for power in Western Europe. Where internal revolt has little chance of success, the Reds work to establish a so-called democratic socialist government where they can entrench themselves until the Communist Party takes over. John Strachey, a top official in the Labour Socialist Party of Great Britain, was for many years an openly avowed communist. In his book, The Theory and Practice of Socialism, he wrote,
It is impossible to establish communism as the immediate successor to capitalism. It is, accordingly, proposed to establish socialism as something which we can put in the place of our present decaying capitalism. Hence, communists work for the establishment of socialism as a necessary transition stage on the road to communism.
England has recently discovered the large extent of communist infiltration into her civil service. In France, the Communist Party is one of the largest single political parties. This is also true in Italy, where the communists made important gains in governmental power in 1962. From the Baltic to the Mediterranean, the Russian hammer and sickle covered the land, and the Soviets turned to the second step of Lenin's plan, the takeover of the masses of Asia. A powerful communist machine headed by Moscow-trained agents had long been entrenched in China, but it was the concessions gained by Stalin at the Yalta and Potsdam Conference, in the absence of Chiang Kai-shek, that opened the door to Soviet conquest. A worldwide communist propaganda campaign was initiated, picturing Mao Zedong as a great agrarian reformer and creating hate for Chiang Kai-shek. Agitation became widespread for a truce between the Communist Chinese and the nationalist armies. Pressure was brought for the cessation of U.S. military aid to nationalist China.